as there has been, about the reinvention in your music. When you set out to build a career 40 years ago, did you already then have the kind of groundbreaking musical ambition that emerged in the 70s, or did you really mostly just want to be a star?
I wanted to write theatrical things, but actually, strangely enough, well, maybe it's not so strange when you look at it in context, but when I was around 17, 18, what I wanted to do more than anything else was write something for Broadway. I wanted to write a musical. I had no idea of how you did it or how musicals were constructed, but the idea of writing something that was rock-based for Broadway really intrigued me. I thought that would be a wonderful thing to do. And I saw myself as somebody who would kind of end up writing musicals in a way, probably rock musicals of some nature. But it never actually became that. So they were, in a way, those ideas were kind of quashed a little bit when I realized what a huge ambitious thing that was to take on, you know, because you have to write dialogue and all that. And I really didn't know how to approach that. So I took a far simpler course and kind of abbreviated the idea of musical into just a concept piece for an album, and created the characters to go with the different albums.
I mean, Ziggy Stardust is a classic illustration, but how much of Davy Jones was in Ziggy?
I don't think there was very much at all. I mean, I honestly, I was trying to create an idea of how to expand rock and expand the horizons of it, and I took as the alien form for Ziggy, as he was supposed to be an alien some kind.
Now Ziggy played guitar, jamming good with weird and spiders from Mars.
I based him very much on the Japanese concept. At that particular time in the early 70s, we knew so little about Japan, and Japan really hadn't exploited itself and brought its stuff over to the West, you know, so it still seemed like an alien society. But it was a human alien society, so you could make a human connection to Japan far more than you could say to Mars, which would be, you know, just beyond.
And what was behind the androgynous images of the 70s?
It just seemed so perfect within the time that really represented what the 70s was all about. There was such a feeling coming out of the 50s and into the 60s, there was a real opening up of attitudes in the 60s. And then the 70s, everything became, it was the pluralistic 70s, you know. There were so many sides to a story in the 70s. Before, in the 50s, it was just black and white. It was one story, yes, and one story, no. But in the 70s, you could look at things in so many different ways. Nothing was right. The idea of absolutes, it was kind of starting to disappear. It wasn't this is the right way, this is the wrong way. And I just felt that it really summed up the whole of what the 70s were going to be about. It was a guess, and it was a good one.
But how much of that was you?
Oh, I think that definitely was me. I mean, I was, in my opinions and in my interests, I was extremely Catholic. I mean, there was nothing that didn't interest me. I had a burning curiosity. I still do have a burning curiosity about just about everything, except country and western, of course. But other than that, I really like to understand the society that I'm living in and how it works, how it functions, and what people are thinking, you know. You can't be a writer in any other way, I think. You have to sort of know where you are to write.
Does that how you see yourself mostly or primarily as a writer, firstly?
I think up until the last couple of years, I would definitely have said yes, absolutely, completely. But I'm so surprised that I never really enjoyed performance very much. I mean, having the theatrical devices helped me get on stage and do them.
And that was a shyness?
Yeah, it was really. I never really felt like the natural performer, you know. I wasn't an outrageous person at heart. I was actually a very quiet little Capricorn boy, you know. And it seemed that I could get a kickstart to having to perform by, you know, working within the functions of characterization. This last 2 or 3 years, I've just thoroughly enjoyed the hell out of just singing the songs that I wrote for all those people. Myself, and just interpreting them myself. And I've got such a wonderful supportive band that I've had now for 8 years. It's just been great. So now, yeah, I'm a writer and I'm also a performer.
You actually wrote, recorded the song Fame.
Yeah.
Lennon worked on that with you.
Yes, he did.
me about that.
Hell, I mean, he was one of the major influences on my musical life. I mean, I just thought he was the very best of what could be done with rock and roll. And also ideas, how he was so... I mean, I felt such kin to him in as much as that he would rifle the avant-garde and look for ideas that were so on the outside, on the periphery of what was the mainstream, and then apply them in a functional manner to something that was considered populist and make it work. He would take the most odd idea and make it work for the masses. And I thought that was just so admirable. I mean, that was like making art work for the people and not sort of having it as an elitist, thing. There was just so much about him that I admired. He was tremendous,
Living in Los Angeles in the 70s has often been described as a lost or depressed period for you, if not dominated by cocaine, then certainly deeply affected by it.
Yeah.
What are your own standout mememories of that time without inviting you?
There are no standout memories of Los Angeles.
Well, what's your perspective looking back?
Just, again, function. I guess, a lot of it had to have been my trying to function behind what really was an extremely shy, reclusive kind of personality that I had. And I kind of probably, like most people who get deeply involved in drugs, it was, I felt that it probably helped me break out of, my inhibitions, But of course it doesn't. It just throws you into a real quagmire of psychic and emotional hell, really. It just brings out or creates awful traumas for you, But I had no idea of that, obviously.
What would you say?
What
would you say it cost you in personal terms?
Oh, it cost me a lot of years where I could have spent them in a very different way, and had a healthier and more fulfilling kind of... I mean, I think the work that I did during that period was surprisingly really good, I mean...
But what you don't know is what you might have been doing.
Yeah, yes, the thing is, so many people, especially, it's fashionable to say, well, you wouldn't have been able to write those things if you weren't on drugs and all that, and I just doubt that's really the truth at all, because I think some of the best things that I wrote at that period, I'd already cleaned up. It was an awful, dreadful period for me. I mean, the only escape for me in the end was just to get up and clean myself out, and just finish my association with cocaine, which had become such a problem that I couldn't function in any other way from day to day. I wasn't eating, I couldn't eat anything. I mean, if you've seen photographs of me in that period, I mean, I weighed, I don't know, 95 pounds or something. It was just dreadful. I'm absolutely amazed that I actually survived that period.
The David Bowie of today is pretty straight in every way, I read recently, content with reality that you're no longer the trailblazer?
I hope that I'm somebody that other artists could look to as maybe someone who's learned how to ride the full curve of having some kind of longevity in their chosen profession, I'm still writing and producing the music that I've always wanted to. And I still have a very loyal audience. I don't think life could be better for me, and I think I'm a good example.
How much of Davy Jones is left in the David Bowie of 2004? Can you remember him?
I think there's an awful lot of David Jones there, yeah. I think you'd finally become the man you always should have been. I really believe that. And I think now that I'm probably truer to my real nature now than I have ever been at any time in my life. Except maybe for when I was about 8 or 9 when I first heard Little Richard.
And you're pretty comfortable with that?
Yeah, I am very comfortable with that, thank you, yeah.
David Bowie, thanks for talking with us.
Thanks.